Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be painting this easy, loose landscape of a lighthouse and this ocean and sky. So if you want to continue and paint this with me, then grab your paints and let's begin. So today I'm going to be painting on a watercolor pad. This is by Etcher. It's called their Perfect Sketchbook. It is 100% cotton, so I'm going to be using it today. I've used it only once before, so I'm going to see how it turns out today as well. I've done a rough little sketch. I used two reference images from Pebeo. That's a really great site if you're looking for copyright-free images just to get ideas of composition. So I just did a little rough sketch. So I will link those in the description box so you can find them and do the drawing before we start painting. Then for brushes, I have a size 4 mop brush by Paul Rubens, a size 6 by Silver Black, and a size 2. And then I've got obviously a clean jar of water, my palette, and for colours today I'm going to be using, this is Neutral Grey by Art Philosophy, this is Cadmium Red by Winsor & Newton, this is Green by White Nights, Ultramarine by White Nights, Burnt Umber by White Nights, Burnt Sienna by Daniel Smith, and Cobalt Blue by White Nights. We're just going to get straight into the painting. I'm just going to be wetting my mop brush and starting off with the sky, just going in and wetting my brush, avoiding the lighthouse. So just making sure to get everywhere else in. So in the reference image there were a lot of clouds, so I'm going to be using a damp baby towel to remove the pigment to give us some clouds. I'm just going gently around the lighthouse. I'm going to go in now with some cobalt blue with my mop brush, and I'm just going to go in and add this really loosely. I'm just gonna be brushing it in, leaving some white space so that our clouds can already begin to form. And I think I want to have more clouds towards the top and less towards the bottom. Then taking a damp baby wipe, I'm just going to scrunch it up and just start to remove some of the pigment to add in our clouds. Okay, I'm just going to take my brush lightly and just add a few splashes to the side. I'm going to go in and we're going to do our water. So I'm going to be going in with Ultramarine. And for water, what I like to do is I like to take quite a lot of pigment, and then starting towards the edge, I like to do it quite saturated. So starting towards the edge, I like to use quite a lot of colour. And then as we move down, I'm just going to be pushing my brush to lighten the colour out. And I'm going to be avoiding little places around where we're going to be having some land. So we'll be able to go in and add our sea later. I'm just going to go in and add that all around. And just taking a little bit more ultramarine, just going in and really darkening that line towards there. And then same thing, I'm just going to add a couple of splatters. So now we're gonna again go on to our land. So I'm just going to add some water, just avoiding anywhere there is some blue, so I don't want them to bleed into each other. Leaving some places dry. And then going in with burnt umber, I'm just going to begin by going in and adding that ground. I'm going to leave this space here quite empty as we're going to be adding some green. This is just a great way to practice to paint nature. Like if you're on holiday or if you're in nature, you don't have a lot of time to focus on the details. So what ends up happening is we're just focusing on the main shapes. And then I'm going to go in straight with that green. So I'm using the green by White Nights, and I'm just going to be pushing it upwards like that to form those little shapes of grass. And just add little pieces of grass where you can, just to make it all blend together. And I'm going to add it all along the coast. And then just going in with a little bit of a dry brush, I'm just going to go in and add some texture to our ground. So I'm just sort of scratching it. So where the grass is, the ground is going to be darker because of the shade. So you just want to darken those areas. And then we're going to leave it, and we're going to move on to our lighthouse. So I'm going to swap brush now. I'm going to change to my size 2. And I'm going to go in with our neutral grey. So I imagine the sunlight to be coming from here in the photo, because one of the panels of the lighthouse is completely white. The second one is sort of a light grey, and then towards the back it is quite dark. So I'm just going to go in and add that grey, just sort of roughly. Then cleaning off my brush, I'm just going to re-wet it and go in with just some plain water. And then what you can do, whatever you have left on your brush, you can just sort of add it to the lightest panel, just to give it the tiniest amount of pigment. So while this panel of the lighthouse is drying, I'm going to go in with some more green pigment and my size 2 brush, and I'm just going to darken some of the grass by just adding very small dashes of green, just very messily adding a bit of depth and contrast to it. This is a loose painting, so nothing has to look particularly perfect. It just needs to give off the assumption that this is a lighthouse and this is the sky, but it doesn't need to mimic the image perfectly. Then cleaning off and drying my size 2 brush, I'm just going to grab a little bit of burnt umber, and we're just going to go in and add some texture by just rubbing the brush into the page. This is just going to give the assumption of rocks. I've just moved my camera closer so that you're able to see what I'm doing a little better. I'm going to go in now and add the dark grey panel and add quite a dark side over here. So I have sort of a dry brush, but I will go in with a clean wet brush to just blend it all together. So I just cleaned off my brush now and I'm just going over it, avoiding a tiny little window space that we have here. And then I'm also going to go in and add the little house that joins to it. Then taking cadmium red, I'm now going to go and paint the lighthouse. So again, remembering that we need to go from light to dark. So I'm going to start off with the darkest panel and then leave that to dry before I paint in the others. I'm then also going to fill in the little space underneath. And I'm just leaving a tiny little space for a window. And we're gonna leave this to dry, and so we're gonna do each section once it's dry. So this is our darkest. We'll then go in with our medium light red and then our lightest red here to just keep the reflection of the light effect. Then to add in our waves, I'm just gonna take a stiff brush and some white gouache on my brush. I'm just gonna go in and start adding those waves. Just imagine if there was water just crashing on the rocks. You can add a little bit in the sea as well, just to tie it together. So going in with a lighter version of the red, I'm just going to brush in the roof and then also the main part. Then while that's drying, I'm just going to take a little bit of burnt umber, again on my size 2, and I'm just going to very quickly brush in the windows. So I'm just going to take my brush and just flick it down, just to give the assumption of windows. And then the same for this window here. And then another little one on the house. And then going back with a little bit of more grey, I'm going to go in and redefine the roof. I'm just going to darken the lighthouse once more. Then I'm just going to lightly paint in this roof here with a little bit of the grey colour. So I'm just going to lightly fill it out. And going in with a little bit more concentrated red, I'm going to go in and paint my second, or our last panel actually. I'm going to take a little bit more red and I'm going to go in and do a second layer, and then we'll go over with a little bit of grey on this side just to show that it's a shadow. And then I've just mixed ultramarine and burnt umber, and I'm just roughly painting in a mountain here just in the distance. And then, not adding any more pigment, I'm just going to go in and bring the colour all the way down to the sea. And then taking the colour that we used on the mountains, I'm just going to go in and fill in the windows. And then I'm also going to take the same colour and I'm going to lightly draw the railings that go around. And then maybe just add a little edge in the top red like it is in the image, and then just going over with a light wash of grey, I'm going to add that to our last panel. And there you have it, our finished painting. So I hope you really enjoyed today's practice. Please give this video a like and consider subscribing, and I will see you in my next video.